How are you doing, loves? I thought this episode with Valentine's Day just around the corner, we can get into some sexy time, some sexy talk. What do you think? Are you in the mood? Probably not. I don't know. You're probably pregnant, or maybe you're a birth worker and you have kids and you're postpartum and could be anything, right? So where are you at? Are you like, do not touch me, please? I myself I get easily like overtouched. So yeah, I'm not really in the mood all the time to be touched. I have a lot of things on my mind. I'm taking care of Kaya so much and she's all over me, breastfeeding or just being postpartum and having hormones change. It's a tough time, right? It's a tough time to connect to yourself and with your partner, but it is so important to have that kind of relationship, an intimate relationship with your partner and with yourself. You don't want to lose yourself, right? I'm a highly sexual person. That's how I've always been. And it's, something that's part of me. So to lose that postpartum is kind of shocking and even scary. Like, is that it for me? Like, what's going on? There's a thing in postpartum that you may have heard of, that roommate era or stage, however you want to call it, where you're both so focused on this baby and taking care of them and raising them and just trying to get sleep and eat, and maybe slip a shower in there would be good. That the intimacy between you both kind of has to take a sidestep, and it's not fun. I know, I've been there. I'm continuing to work on it. I won't lie. There's medications now that you can take, and you can get into therapy, and you can talk to someone, right? And I met Kaci, and she is a sex coach, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that this is such a thing. And she can work with women and partners during not only the pregnancy and postpartum stage, but even like the fertility stage. How hard is it if you're going through your fertility journey where having sex is like, it's almost like a job, like a thing that we need to do today, right now. This is my fertile window. We got to do it. Like, the pressure is high for both parties involved. If you're going through IVF, if you're doing all this thing, sex surrounds it, your intimacy surrounds it. So it's on the table, guys, and we need to talk about it. So if you are all in on this episode, if you don't want to hear anything about sex, then maybe you got to move on. But today we are going to talk with sex coach Kaci, everything and all about sex life and how to increase intimacy, more than just sex, between your partner and yourself during this amazing time in your life. So join me now. Welcome to the Birthling Podcast, presented by My Friend's a Nurse. I am your host, Colette McCullicher, a high-risk labor and delivery nurse right here in sunny California. I'm also an OB certified specialist, birth educator, lactation expert, and mother of 2 beautiful daughters. I am passionate about guiding you through the miraculous journey of pregnancy and childbirth, using evidence and history and asking the reason why. I have some incredible medical friends and colleagues, and we're all here to help you navigate this often overwhelming birthing hospital system in the United States. My goal is to gain trust in birth, improve this system, and provide some valuable insights. Let's make this journey a little less daunting and a lot more joyful. Let's get into it. Hey, Kaci, welcome to the Birthling Podcast. How are you?
Hi, Colette. I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm excellent. We're just living the dream.
Yeah.
Getting to talk on this podcast that, this is our time. You were just saying that it was like your time to be alone and like sit and work is like your free time.
Well, yeah, as I said great and was smiley and telling you that, I was like, oh, is that my real answer? Like, I've been in survival mode. So yes, I am great in this moment because, like you said, this is my time to really focus on what I love and am passionate about, and talking to another mom and business owner, that is like my dream. So great now, but yeah, life has been kicking our butt over here between sickness and holidays and travel, and I don't even know. I don't know.
Yeah, we're kind of just keeping our head above the water
There you go.
sometimes. And you're like,
Yep.
oh, I just want to stop kicking for 2 seconds.
I know.
Like someone, I'm like, Mom, can I just be a kid again for 2 seconds? Thanks.
Yes.
But then we get to come upstairs and close the door and turn on the mic and start reaching into who we are as women and entrepreneurs and people and start discussing that. And of course, that's just gets us all pumped up because it doesn't have to do with kids or sickness or travel or chores or errands or any of that. It's another playing field reaching
I
out.
know.
And
And
I,
I hope anyone listening to this conversation, this is also like a break for them. Like, oh, I get
yes,
to listen and feel like I'm chatting with other moms, I hope that
right.
this is their favorite part of the day as well.
Connection, right? Like connection with people that understand you and can relate to you and you relate to them, especially when you're pregnant. Oh my gosh, when I was pregnant, I was just searching everywhere for that kind of connection. So any movie or TV show that had a pregnant woman, I watched it, right? Like
Oh,
any podcast that had to do with pregnancy, I was listening to it cuz and it wasn't always about to get all the information. It was just connection. It's so
yeah, the
important.
first time that I was pregnant, so I have two daughters. I know we'll get into this. I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
No, that's
We just
that's
started
I
chatting.
was like, I don't know if I'm gonna ask you questions or this is gonna be a conversation.
Yeah,
Go
I
for
have
it.
two daughters. So my oldest daughter just turned 3, November 23rd, and my youngest is 7 months old. So I'm in the thick of it postpartum. I feel like postpartum's forever. But when I was pregnant with my 3-year-old, it was still COVID times, and I guess for you, same. So it
Same, yeah.
wasn't like it's such a different experience now for me that I'm able to connect in person with other moms. But with my first daughter, no, I was trying not to get COVID. I was trying
Yeah.
to, really stay away from people. So it was so isolating. But podcasts and, like you said, movies, all of the things were really important.
Yeah,
Still
totally.
are. Still are.
That's true. I didn't even think about it because I was 2020 when I had Kaya and I was definitely isolated.
Uh-huh.
But I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was like,
Right.
oh, I can't go anywhere. I guess I gotta hang out at the house and decorate and
Oh
listen to
no,
my
people
podcast.
can't come visit.
Oh
Oh, what a
no.
shame.
It was like built in excuse. I think we all had it a little bit. We all tapped into our what is it? Introvert
Introvert.
side. Okay, Casey. So you're here because you're an expert. You're a postpartum pregnancy coach, sex coach, right? Oh my God, that's cool. So how did you get into it? Let's talk about you for a little bit. How'd you get into coaching sex? And that's kind of
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, so I am Kaci Mial, or Sex Coach Casey, on Instagram and all the social media things. But I am a perinatal sex coach, meaning I work with people before, during, after pregnancy. I work with partners as well. And I also do fun things like I'm a family yoga instructor, I'm a infant massage educator. I love to grab all of these little things everywhere, right? But my main purpose is really, I am passionate about helping families. I want them to be connected, get accurate evidence based information, be in community. And sex in particular, this topic is the most taboo out of what I do. Okay. And when people ask me, how did you get into this? They're like, you know, what, did you just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to be a sex coach? How did that happen? And I'm like, no, no, no. So it started really, I wanted to be a psychologist growing up because of things I saw around me, my family, my friends' families, just people going through stuff, and wanted to help other people. And I thought psychology was a really cool way to do that. Started going down that path in high school, actually, and then undergrad and college. Took a human sexuality class and was like, oh, this is my jam. This is what I want to know about. So interesting, right? Like, why doesn't anybody tell young people about this? I spent my whole middle school, high school years trying to answer my friends' questions about sex with, you know, are there different size condoms? We asked our gym teacher that one time and he turned bright red and was like, I don't know. Don't ask me that. Go eat your lunch. Adults don't like telling you stuff like this. And now I'm an adult and I am a sex coach and in this field. So I know the information, but even as adults, it's hard to talk about. Even in my own relationship, I'm a sex coach, it's hard to talk about, right? And so I just want to give other people that permission to say, yeah, it's hard, but it's important. And where can you get that true information that's not Google? Because if you go on these Facebook groups, if you go on Google, you're going to get a lot of bad advice. And I don't want that for people. So fast forward, really, that sparked my passion, just wanting to know that information. I was not a mom myself yet. I continued my education in psychology, got a psychology degree at Rutgers University. Then I worked with teen moms. And I kind of wanted to be that next Dr. Drew. I don't know if anybody listening or you, Colette, had watched Teen Mom growing
Kara,
up.
of course.
Uh huh.
I
Yeah.
heard some crazy stuff on that show.
Right. So I was a teenager watching that like, "Oh, let me see like what's happening there." And I really was inspired by that. And then in real life, I got to work with teen moms and teen parents and realized, "Oh, actually, their reality is a lot different than even it's portrayed like on TV, right?" Probably not a big surprise. We know reality TV skews everything. But to me, it was a wake up call to be like, oh, you know what? These teenagers, these teen parents, these young people are just people trying to navigate life. And down to the simplest things like, hey, Miss Casey, can you hold my baby so I could do my homework? Or can I take a nap? Or what am I going to do? Am I going to get a job? Where am I going to live? And I really built a connection with these girls, and they taught me it was so much less about sex and so much more about relationships with people. And are you in a healthy relationship with other people? A lot of us have so much trauma or so much toxicity around us, and not just teen parents, right? So are we in good relationships with ourselves? What is our self talk like? What is our talk like to other people? How are we talking to our children? You and I were just talking about this. Like, what is school drop off like in the morning, right? Now that we are moms and all of that, I was just passionate about. I went to Widener University to get a master's degree in this. So I have a master's of education in human sexuality. And then when I had my daughter, I took the time to get a coaching certificate through Sex Coach U. That was virtual, and it taught me how to work one on one with people, where my degree taught me how to teach in classrooms and do in person workshops, all of the things. So, long story short, that is what brought me here. That's what I'm doing. I have my second daughter now. I'm diving deeper into trying to reach more people, both locally in my community. I'm in New Jersey, outside of New York City, and also online. I work worldwide with people.
Amazing. Sex Coach You. They have a
Sex Coach
universe
U. Yep.
for anybody that didn't catch that and are interested. There's a Sex Coach You. Okay, so it's a thing, and it's an amazing thing. And like you said, it's a taboo thing. We don't really talk about it. No one told me. I think just recently I heard the term like the roommate stage or era, like where you just become roommates with your partner after you have a baby. And it happened to me, and I didn't know it was a thing until it happened. With my first, I was single, so I didn't have to worry about it. And I was 20, so no problem there. As soon as I felt ready, I got a boyfriend. Like when you're 20, it's it's a lot easier. Sorry if my husband's listening to this, but now that I'm in a committed, healthy, happy relationship, right? You become pregnant. Especially if you go through fertility struggles, I know that kind of stems. Puts a little wrench in the whole like relationship with your partner, as it now becomes a thing of like, we need to do this instead of it's out of love and passion and we want to. It becomes like now it's money and and time and pressure. The pressure is insurmountable sometimes when you're having fertility issues, and then you get pregnant, and then the hormone changes and your body changes, and then your partner kind of his role is skewed a little bit, and he's figuring out how to connect to this woman that he doesn't even possibly recognize anymore, though he still loves her and they know it's for a reason. And it just escalates, and then all of a sudden you have a newborn, and now you're recovering. And this is just for pregnant women out there. If you are going through this, you're not alone, because most of us have gone through this, and it's surprising that it's surprising, right? It's like, well, duh, it's not going to be how it was when it was just him and me and we were dating. And it's going to be different. We go through these challenges and changes together. So then back to you. That being said, what are like the most common questions that you find that couples have, maybe when they're pregnant? And well, I guess, do they have questions when they're pregnant? Are they coming to you pregnant, like with an understanding of they need some to prepare, or is it usually you get them afterwards when there's already a problem? Tell me more about the process of, like, let's say a pregnant couple.
Yeah, so I was just nodding the whole time that you were saying all of that because I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. And you're kind of leading us through this journey, right? The trying to conceive, the pregnant. I'm like, mm-hmm, and it keeps going, and then postpartum. And so with clients that come to me, I see this cycle all of the time. It's okay, well, it's hard during trying to conceive. It's hard during pregnancy. It's hard postpartum. It's hard with a 5-year-old. It's hard with a 10-year-old. The hard changes. And so this is why I'm so passionate about this. And I want people to get into coaching earlier rather than later. To answer your question, Colette, most clients are coming to me postpartum when they realize, oh shit, it's been a year and I'm not having sex and I don't want to have sex. So what do I do now? And their partner's like, hey, it's been a long time, let's get this rolling. And so people wait until they realize it's a real problem in their relationship, whereas you could start this way before. And I say that because if you allow the circumstances to dictate your sex life or satisfaction with how you feel about your body or how you feel about intimacy, it will always be a new type of hard. You will never get the help or the support that you need. So I would say wherever you are, whether you're trying to conceive, even before that, if you're like, hey, I'm not ready to try to have a baby yet, but this sounds interesting. I work with those people too, because no matter where you are in the lifespan, we could talk about sex. We could talk about how your experiences or lack of experiences with sex have impacted your current relationship, your current all of the things. So, yes.
Perfect. And then I feel like a lot of times we downplay it, right? Or it's like,
Uh-huh.
it's not a problem. Okay, so I don't want it right now, but it'll come back. And we're like, push it aside. Push it aside is not a priority, and or not something that's, we don't want to admit something's wrong, or that there's something that we could do to fix it. It's just going to be naturally fixed on its own, because we're thinking of ourselves as our past self with no issues. And like, it'll come back. I'm just going through something right now. And then it doesn't. It just, all of a sudden you're creating these habits that sustain, and this mental block, right? So what are some things, let's get into it, like some things in pregnancy that we could probably do to bypass that? If, okay, maybe you haven't had sex in a month or two, and you're realizing that you don't really want to, you don't have a desire to, right? Maybe you're 7 months pregnant and you're like, look, I worked so hard to get pregnant, and now I am, and I'm really big, and we do it once in a while. It's fine. I'm pregnant. I don't need to. We'll do it again once the baby comes, right? But that might not happen. So what could we do now, instead of brushing it off, to develop some grounding techniques or habits to sustain a healthy sex relationship or intimacy relationship? Sometimes it's not about sex, but more that intimacy and the gratification out of sex, right? What can we do while we're pregnant right now? This is a long-winded question, but
That's
that's how
okay.
I roll.
I know. I'm so excited to answer this question. And what you just led to at the end is exactly what I'm going to say is it's not even always about sex. And people are like, but you're a sex coach. I'm like, yes, I am. And it's oftentimes a lot more boring than it sounds, right? It's not about the lingerie. It's not about the lube. It's not about what new sex toy to buy that's going to make you desire sex during pregnancy. That's not going to work. And it's bullshit. And like, I'm sorry, I don't know if we could curse on here. Bleep
I
that
don't
out.
either. We're all
um,
grown-ups.
yeah. Well, so we know if you have been pregnant before, you know that superficial stuff is not going to do it for you because maybe you've tried it, maybe somebody told you, maybe you still had no desire, interest into it. The foundation that you want to build is a foundation of friendship, a foundation of intimacy, a foundation of communication, consent, honoring how you feel in your body, and that's where you start. I mean, that's a lot right there, right? So it's not jumping to sex, but it's asking yourself, do I want sex right now? And if not, what are we going to do? So I'll give you a personal example, Colette, and
Oh, okay.
let's just chat because
Yeah.
I don't always, dive deep into my experiences with clients, but for this purpose, I want to share with you to give an example. So when I was pregnant with both of my daughters, really, I got hyperemesis gravidarum. So I had, severe nausea and vomiting. I did not feel like myself. I just kept throwing up all of the time. I lost a lot of weight during pregnancy. There was no way that I wanted sex while I was like throwing up and pooping on myself. Let's just be real.
Oh,
that
yeah.
that
Not
doesn't sound
sexy.
that's not sexy at all. And so I am part of support groups for this on Facebook, and you would be surprised, I'm not alone in that other people say my partner wants sex. I'm over here throwing up. I can't eat anything. What do I do? And I'm like, the fact that that's even a question to me really, lights a fire inside my soul because I'm like, first of all, you need support right now. You don't need to be worried about sex, and that's okay. So, the permission to, while you're pregnant, some people get increased desire for sex, and some people are like, this is the last thing on my mind right now. All of that is okay. So, wherever you are, feel that. If you want more sex and you're feeling good, go for it unless your provider has told you otherwise, right? I know you know more of the medical side of that and have seen those types of things. But unless somebody's told you you can't, then go for it. But it's about asking yourself, what type of sex do you want right now? Is it penetration of all of the things, a penis, a finger, a toy? Maybe not. Maybe it's like sex to me right now is a foot rub, you know?
I was
I don't know.
thinking the same thing. Like, babe, I have a new move.
Yeah, right.
Kneel
Let me show
down.
you.
Kneel down. Here's my foot. No mouth, just hands. Get to massaging.
Yeah, and you coach them through that. Tell them what you
It's
want.
like, what?
I know, I know.
It's intimacy, babe.
It's intimacy, but it's so true. It's so true. And when I say it, it just sounds like such like you could have came up with that answer yourself, right? But I feel like we put this pressure on ourselves to think we should be doing it a certain way. And that certain way really hasn't served women's bodies for a long time, even not pregnant. So
Yeah,
it's like,
that's true.
throw that out the window. What is going to be pleasurable for you? And if you are someone like me that does not want sex period right now during pregnancy, then you're going to focus back on that intimacy piece. Are you talking with a partner? Are you having space to share how you feel? Are you asking questions? The Gottman Institute talks about it as love maps. Are you learning about that other person's world? Because what happens when we have kids, and Colette, maybe you could relate, I know I sure can. I think we're in separate worlds sometimes. You talked about that roommate phase. I'm like, are you on a different planet? Did you process that the same way I did? Because I'm struggling here and that's not on my mind. So you just ask simple things. If you're in the car on the way to an appointment, ask them, hey, what's your favorite song right now? Have you even had time to watch a show or listen to a podcast, or are you listening to music? If you did have time, what would you want to be doing right now? You're going to start building this friendship if you have a partner. If you're flying solo, you're going to think about what support do you need right now and ask yourself the same questions like, what does intimacy look like to me? And build it very personalized to you on what you want, not what you think other people do.
So maybe a lot of journaling and learning about the connection you have with yourself first,
Yes,
so that you know what you're bringing to the table. That's what it sounds like. Yeah,
exactly. Journaling is
perfect.
great too.
And then intently getting to know and consciously your partner and continuing to get to know them. Look them in the eyes. Like, I think eye connection is so important, and ask them your question, like not nonchalantly, but intimately. Like, if my husband just looked me in the eye and like took my hand and asked me anything, I'm like, okay.
I'm picturing like a hug from the back, babe. Have you ate today? I'd be like, oh my god.
My husband's so good at that. He connects. He's very loving. He uses a lot of words of affirmation and acts of service, acts of kindness. I said, I'm like,
Uh
that's
huh.
better. That's a better term, actually. It's acts of service. I get, like, he does the dishes. He does my dishes with only a little complaining. Which is fine. I have my clothes all over because I have a tiny little closet and a lot of clothes, and he barely complains, right? To me, that's romantic. I was like, thank you for doing that. But then we need to take that time without being mom and dad. Like, I think we got into the role of like mom and dad, and maybe head of household, paying the bills, me managing errands, and working on this business. Like, we get into those roles that we forget, like husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, let's go back to being boyfriend and girlfriend. And I try to go back to that place so that I can look at him with those eyes, not the eyes of like, did you do this today? But more of like, you're cute. Like, let's talk about this. Like, yes, what's your favorite new song? Like, what are you up to on Friday? Do you want to do something with me? Like, he asked me out on dates. So those kinds of things you can get started right now while you're pregnant, even if you're not feeling well, so that you can maintain. And then what do you work with them on? Like, if they were going to call you, do you work with them as a couple, or is it mostly just the women or the men calling?
I do both. So I do individual sessions and couple sessions. So let's say individual session, right? And it's similar for both. But if somebody pregnant called me and said, hey, usually it's the most common thing is like, I don't have desire for sex. What's wrong with me? And I'm like, okay, first of all, nothing's wrong with you, right? We established that. So good. What's next? And then they say, well, maybe I have pain during penetration. And I say, okay, tell me more about that. Is it pain when there's something inserted? Is it pain after a long period of time? Because those types of things could mean maybe if it's with insertion, maybe you need to see a pelvic floor therapist, or maybe if it's just friction after a long time, maybe you need some lube, right? And so those are some of the solutions that can come out of sex coaching. But for all of my clients, I give them a questionnaire that asks them about their sexual history. And that gives me an opportunity to put some pieces together. And I'll give you an example there. One time, somebody was having trouble having an orgasm. And they told me, I've never been able to have an orgasm. What's wrong? Why? And so when I looked at their questionnaire, they also said that they have PCOS. And I said, oh, did you know that people that have PCOS actually have a harder time having an orgasm? And they were mind blown. They're like, wait, what? Why is that connected? Like,
I didn't know
so
that.
yeah. So sometimes I will see things just by asking questions that maybe you in the thick of it aren't even thinking about. And then we go through next steps. So that's what coaching is all about. It's about how do I help you get closer to the goals that you want to get to? And that might look like me connecting you with those professionals, a mental health therapist, a pelvic floor therapist, a medical provider who could test your hormones to see how everything is going out. And once we roll out that stuff, we get to talk about the practical solutions. Colette, you started saying date nights. I just wanted to add to that date nights are not, boring or unsexy. Scheduled sex is not boring or unsexy. You want to schedule those moments of intimacy the same way that you schedule your pedicure appointment. So if you say Friday night, 7 p.m., I know we have an hour, possibly if you already have children, you're like, we possibly have an hour, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. that night. Let's keep that as our time on the calendar. And even if we don't have sex, we do something that sparks something between us. So that could be conversation, that could be holding hands, these non-sexual points of intimacy. That could be hugging, that could be the eye contact, doing some sensate focus stuff of like sitting on, towards each other and just holding each other skin to skin. We talk about skin to skin for babies. We need it too. And all of this, you could cuddle naked together, take a shower together. You really just need those ideas of how to connect with that person. And there's so much more there. Then I work with clients on like responsive desire versus spontaneous desire, all these things. And once we go through that, get you closer to your goals, I ask them for a takeaway from the session. Each session comes with a task to do in between, to try out, come back, report back. And it's a lot of fun. It's really, this space where you get to just lay it all out there. Like, sometimes with our partners, we're not able to candidly say what the real issue is, right? And I'm guilty too. I'm like, oh, how do I tiptoe around say like this one thing, right?
I know. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's what individual coaching is. Couples coaching is very similar, but I send both clients the questionnaire beforehand. We start the session together. Then we have a portion of the session, just one part of the couple privately, the other part of the couple privately, and then come back together to talk about it. So
Amazing. So it's almost like like sex therapy, right? So it's like
it's
trying to dive
very
in.
similar. Yeah,
It's
but
similar
different.
with, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So it's better, but it's better than just going in with your question to Google, because you are not we and I see that with any kind of coaching, right? We're blind to like the blind spots, right? We can't go and ask Google if we don't even know what to ask or what we're missing. We don't see it, and you need an expert. That's why I do birth coaching to lead up to birth and pregnancy, and because I can see the things that you're not seeing, or I know the questions to ask your doctor that you may not even exist because you do not understanding the healthcare system to the level I am. And that's the same with you. Like, you're understanding sex and issues from your years of experience and your education. That's some layperson that my experience is just my experience dating, and maybe my friends and talking to them. And that can get kind of dangerous when you're comparing yourself to your friends or to people on that you see on social media, or they're like, oh look, they have like 4 kids and a year apart each. Like, they're really and they're like having these amazing pictures, and like, what are they doing? I can't do it. And you just feel like a failure. And then you're right, it's so hard to bring honest, transparent conversations up with your partner, because it's a sensitive topic and they're having their own issues that they may not be, that they're just trying to push through or understand. And communication can get really heightened, and then it's out the window. And that's why having a third party, to even if it's just to help one person individually learn the tricks, usually the other person follows suit. And it's usually the, I guess I'll stereotype, that's probably the husband that's just going to fall like, yay, we're back, but I'm sure over time it's affected him deeply to the point that it may cause insecurities to come out, not understanding his role, just needing his own level of affection or attention that he's not getting. And then the fear that he'll go out and get it somewhere else. And the reality that they do, it's just like, it can be overwhelming. So it's very important. I feel like your relationship, your partnership, whether you're married or a boyfriend and girlfriend or a girlfriend and girlfriend or whatever it is, or non-gender, like whatever it is, your relationship with that person that you're building a life with, it revolves around intimacy, and it has to be a priority. And I just feel like we put that, once we have our mortgage and our babies and, getting food on the table, like all those other things become a priority. And I think we all know that it's not like our partner has to be our top priority. And those that believe in God will put God above that, and that's fine. But then it's your partner, even sometimes before the kids, right? Like you've got to maintain that relationship. And that's why it's so important to find someone like you, Kaci, that specializes in that intimacy. You're almost more of an intimacy coach than a sex coach, right?
Yes,
So
both. Both are so important.
Right. It's amazing. So let's see. So once the kids come, what could pregnant mamas and parents out there kind of expect to happen once you have the kid? Let's say your pregnancy was fine. Maybe you didn't have, the nausea and the vomiting, and you had sex a few times a month, and that was fine by you, and you have a great relationship, and now the baby comes. What could be some things that may happen during that period? Maybe we can touch on that, and just to prepare them. And what are some tips and tricks during that time? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So postpartum, if you haven't been there, it can be a whirlwind. It really can. Some have a great postpartum period. I know I felt with my first daughter, I had a lot of support. I felt good. I felt like, I don't know. Now as I'm saying it, even as I'm trying to justify it being good, like memories are popping up and I don't want to scare anybody. I'm like,
You can be
wait.
real. We're
Yeah,
real.
I know. Yeah, there can be good parts of it and there can be still very deep, dark moments. And I think one thing that's starting to get more attention with the postpartum period is perinatal mood disorders or your general emotional well being, right? And so, even for people that have a lot of support, you can experience postpartum depression. Your partner can experience postpartum depression. Men can experience it, right? And that's hard to wrap your mind around sometimes, I think, when it becomes a battle of who's more tired, who's doing more, who's doing more tasks in the home, who's doing more with the baby. It becomes this battle with each other. And so I remember being postpartum and my husband not washing the bottles one night, and I really needed them. I woke up at 2 a.m. to pump and go feed the baby a bottle and was like, where are they at? And to other people looking in, they'd be like, oh, that's a simple fix. Like he could just wash the bottles next time. But to me, I felt like I wanted a divorce in that moment. I'm like, no, 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 no. I had such rage and all of the things. So it it could be a lot of mental load on people as well, especially the primary parent who is remembering all of the things, washing the bottles. How are we going to get the baby fed? Who's ordering the diapers or going to the store? All of it becomes task oriented and we lose that intimacy sometimes. Sometimes postpartum could also bring you closer. So that's why I was remembering it as good through these colored glasses, is because I felt more in love with my husband postpartum with my first baby. And I wanted to be close to him actually way sooner than I thought. I was like, yeah, I like, come give me a hug. When do we get to try sex again? What did they say? 6 weeks? What? I'm like, okay, I'll wait because there's risk of infection and you're healing and physically, you want to do that. But emotionally, I was on a high after my baby girl came. And so I felt like the intimacy was there because actually through birth, I felt so supported. And so there's a range of things that could happen. You could have birth trauma you're still working through, and then maybe that impacts you having your emotional well being, and that impacts how you're feeling physically, all of the things. So, anyway, tips and tricks for this postpartum is similar to pregnancy in the sense that you want to focus on your physical, emotional, social well being first and get the support that you need. So, if that's somebody holding the baby while you shower, if that's you holding the baby while somebody cleans up, the general postpartum advice, right, of getting that help is also going to help your sex life. Because if you don't have time to even think about yourself, if you don't have time to feel clean, or have you drink any water today? Or did you eat nutritious food? Did you get to walk around the house or walk outside to get a breath of fresh air? Then intimacy or sex becomes really, really hard. Put your needs first, and that's also going to contribute to that. And then, same when we think about children, right? And I don't think I learned this well. Maybe I'm still learning it with my second daughter, is that sometimes you need, Colette, you were saying this, is you need to put your needs in front of your children sometimes. And for me, with my second daughter, it's so hard. I'm like, it's so hard. But that could look like putting baby in a safe place, like a crib, a bassinet, having somebody hold them while you take a shower. Take the shower you need. If they are crying for 5 or 10 minutes, nobody is calling child protective services on you.
No,
And they
and showers should be like basic
This is
care.
bare
Honestly,
minimum.
this is like have them take it so you could go read a book. So you could
Right.
just go watch stupid television or whatever. You can take a walk alone without the
Yes,
baby. Like find yourself and who you are. A shower should be basic and
exactly.
it's not even. So
I
definitely
know.
figure out how to take a shower first and foremost and then
Yes.
level up.
Yes. There you go. That's a
Sorry,
take
had to
home
jump
point.
in there.
No, I appreciate that. And you know what? It's so important because in sex coaching, this is a lot of what I do. A lot of what I do is like breaking it down to way basics that we think it's not about these kinky, hour-long marathon sex sessions. It's like, no, we need to go back to consent. Like, do you want sex or no? Because people are still out here having sex and they don't want to. I'm like, that's a consent violation. Like, that's not good. That's
They're
abuse. That's
probably just
yeah.
yeah, they just want to keep their partner from leaving
Right,
them.
right.
They're
And
like,
our
I'm gonna just force
society
it.
Yeah, and our society puts these expectations on us, right? So throw all of that out, even postpartum. Connect, find those ways to connect. And again, scheduling is really important. The other thing I'll say is I have a resource. This is a shameless plug, but also something I think really helps. The Ultimate Postpartum Intimacy Prep Guide. This can also help you pregnant, and I should probably rename it because you need to do this during pregnancy. There are checklists in there that you can ask questions to your provider, to a partner, to yourself to assess when are you ready for sex. And there's also the yes list that's in there, which I developed with a pelvic floor therapist, and it gives you questions that you don't even have to think about. You get postpartum brain, or I still have it. I still have it. I don't know that it goes away,
Are
but
we
there are
dumb
set
now? I feel like I'm
questions.
just dumb now. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll settle
Yeah.
into this. Don't ask me a name or a date, okay? I have it
Right.
written down somewhere.
I know, I know. And so there's set questions that you could ask your partner, like where are places that you want to be touched, like that foot rub we were talking about, right? Or a shoulder rub, a full body massage, whatever. And what's off limits? Are you like nursing a baby and your breasts are no longer sexy? Cool. Like let's not even go there. And it walks you through all of that. So I would say for tips, download that free guide because you're going to get actionable steps that you could do right now without having to think too hard.
Perfect. And I'll leave those links in the show notes. So if anyone wants to go grab them, just find the show notes and click on the links. And don't forget to click subscribe because I want more subscribers so that more moms can hear conversations like this. Kaci, thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else we want to leave the listeners with before you got to go?
I just want to say, know that you are not alone. Know that you have community. Know that you have community with Colette here and the awesome listeners. Know that there are people out there experiencing similar things to you. Like I said, on the spectrum of whether you want more sex, less sex, no sex, once a week sex, there is no right number of times that you should be having sex. Throw out all of the shoulds. Ask for what you need, communicate, ask those questions, build the love maps that we said to learn about your partner's world. And if you are struggling with something, reach out for help. And I'm here to support.
Perfect. And also, figure out the value of a great coach in your life, like to get you through these periods of time that you maybe you're Googling a little bit more and you don't have the answers and you don't maybe have the questions, right? So I value a great coach so much, someone that can lead you and mentor you, even through life situations that you may think should be natural, like childbirth, like your intimacy, like marriage, right? And I'm so glad it's becoming more mainstream therapy and couples therapy. So it's not like something's wrong if I do this. Like if you get a sex coach, it's not necessarily because something's wrong in your relationship, but you want to maintain it throughout the years because you value your relationship so much. So I just
Yeah,
want to throw that out.
once we talk about all that foundation stuff, then you could talk about the fun stuff. What toy do I get? What lube? Should I get some lingerie? Like,
Yeah,
should we
you're
plan a
gonna
date
go
night
next
out?
level. Oh my God. Kaci, you're doing the good work. You're doing some good
Thank
work out there
you.
for us. Yes, women supporting women all day, women supporting men. That's what we do. We're people. Thank you so much, Kaci, for joining us, and we will talk really soon. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Kaci. She's amazing. I love her. Remember, you can find her on social media at Sex Coach Kaci. That's Kaci with a K, by the way. You can also go to her website at sexcoachkaci.com. She is a certified sex coach. She's an infant massage educator and yoga instructor. But more than anything, she is like the sweetest smile, and she is so caring and lovable. And she's been through it, right? She has 12 plus years of experience working with individuals and couples and families to gain that intimacy and that connection, which could save your marriage. It could save your partnership. And you can get to a place that you both really, really need to be and want to be. And I don't know, I think I might give her a call myself and get us on and work with her. I love her. So thank you so much for joining me today. Remember where you can find me at myfriendsandnurse.com, or you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at myfriendsandnurse. Until next time, stay healthy and stay informed. Thank you for listening to My Friends and Nurse presents the Birthling Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it valuable. Before we go, a quick reminder. The information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any medical concerns or questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more people and continue to bring you great content. Until next time, stay healthy and stay informed.